For Baulkham Hills.
Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker. I think Christmas Felicitations is probably the most pleasant of the speeches that MPs get to make in this place during the year, and I've tried to every year in the 7 that I've been here make Christmas felicitations and offer them not only to my electorate but also to those that work with us. The Premier, the Deputy Premier, the Leader of the Opposition have acknowledged the work of those that spend so much time in this building, often unrecognised, and making our life easier. For me, Christmas is a very important part of the year, not just because it is, I think, the greatest celebration in the Christian calendar. It's also an opportunity for all of those in leadership positions to reflect on what makes this country great, what gives us an opportunity to be thankful for, and of course acknowledge any milestones that have occurred in this year, during the year. As the Minister and the Member for Baulkham Hills, I get to also use this very special and hopefully heartfelt opportunity to thank those that support me in both those capacities. I would have to start therefore in thanking my Chief of Staff, Catherine Danks, who often, and as late as today, was acknowledged by some of my parliamentary colleagues, is the woman who balances me, but I don't understand that because there's no way in the world that I need any balance. I think I've got a very, very fair and appropriate approach to all of my parliamentary duties. My Deputy Chief of Staff, Tanya, who this year went with the Member for Rockdale and I and the Member for Miranda to Beersheba. Her Arabic helped me get out of a lot of trouble, but it was also an opportunity to just pause and reflect on the sacrifices that have been made over the course of the last 100 years. To parliamentary, to one of my assistant advisors, Shay, to Trish and Cherie, my the departmental liaison officers, to Mitch Clout, who would probably also go down as one of those that attempts to balance me, although on occasions provides me with advice that I agree with, therefore he may not be exactly on the money when it comes to policy. To Vince, to Carl, my driver, to Aaron Moeller, who joined me this year in my electorate office and replaced the great Keith Topolsky, who spent 7 years from my pre-selection to only recently. And we wish Keith the very best as he goes off to Canada to start a new life, and to thank Aaron Moeller for choosing Team Elliott for his future career. To Michelle Byrne, who is also leaving me as my electorate secretary. She's going off to the Gold Coast. Why anybody would want to live up there is beyond me, Mr Acting Speaker, but if you do need any campaign workers, Michelle's going to be just over the border, and I've told her that you'll be in touch. To our receptionist Alice, who has always got a smile on her face. To my private secretary Kylie, who has provided me with great support this year, replacing my former secretary Rachel, who left at the beginning of this year after 12 years service. To Lucinda, advisor on counter-terrorism, and of course to Lee Vandenbroecker, the son of Mrs Vandenbroecker. Lee is my press secretary, Mr Speaker, and when he started with me, I reminded him that the worst job in the world is to be the press secretary to a former press secretary. So thank you, Lee, for teaching me my trade. If only you'd been Peter Collins and John Howard's press secretaries in the 90s, both of them would have had long and enduring careers. Mr Speaker, as Minister for Veterans Affairs, I take the opportunity to pause and reflect on the 100,000 Australians that died in the theatres of war since 1885, when Australia first lost a soldier in the Sudan confrontation. Mr Speaker, don't forget that those 100,000 Australians that lost their lives reflect 100,000 families who have spent multiple Christmases without a loved one. And as a former serviceman myself, I know how hard it is to be away from family at this time of the year, and I think that if we do anything over the course of this period, we should reflect and thank on the sacrifice, the courage and the beauty of service to one's fellow man via the Australian Defence Force. As Prisons Minister, I remind everybody that there are not only the officers working in prisons over the course of the Christmas period when we're at home tucking into the turkey, they are keeping our community safe, but the inmates themselves, we shouldn't forget that Christmas is a time for refreshing, for celebration, and for those prisoners we hope that the next year will be one of rehabilitation and and also one that they may be able to reflect on how they can make a positive contribution to society. Of course, noting, Mr Speaker, that Jesus himself was a prisoner in the hours leading up to his own crucifixion. Once again, Mr Speaker, thank you for the opportunity, thank you for the House, and I wish everybody in my electorate and also in this building a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you.